This is a download from BFM 89.9, the business station.
Good afternoon, it's Azura Rahman here on Tech Talk. Now, Peter Norton once said that the computer viruses did not exist. He compared the phenomena to a famous urban legend about alligators living in the sewage. Now, this statement from a computer guru is now considered as false, as they do exist and they are evident with computer virus attacks that stunned the world before and at the dawn of the 21st century. Now, here with me today is Krishna Rajagopal, and he's the CEO of AKATI Consulting, as we go through some of the viruses, spyware, malware, you name it, for the year 2011. Now, Krishna, it seems that 2011 was the year of DDoS attacks. We heard a lot about this in the headlines for the past year. Tell us a bit more. And for those who are not so familiar with the DDoS attacks, what are they all about?
All right. Now, most certainly, Azura, this whole cat and mouse game between the good guys, the IT administrators, and the bad guys, who are the hackers, has sort of intensified in 2011. As what we can see is the number of distributed denial of service attacks has exploded. Now, of course, alongside this, this is also coupled with the increase in political and ideological hacktivism around the world. Mm-hmm. And the good guys have basically been put on, literally on their feet, to be extremely diligent in identifying these attempts by the bad guys to basically disable their website or temporarily render their website unusable. And that's basically DDoS in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm. So basically, someone is... It's multiple users who are accessing a website, meaning that your website is not accessible because it just couldn't cope with the amount of users. Is that what it is?
Yes, basically illegitimate users trying to render the website unusable so that a legitimate user can't really access your site.
Okay. Yeah. Now, why the rise of DDoS attacks? You mentioned about political hacktivism.
Yes.
What's that all about?
Well, it came from two words, hacking and activism. People resorting to hacking activities as a form of activism. And if you look at distributed denial of service, they've been used by cyber criminals for a long time. The traditional reasons were always to blackmail and for extortion. If you don't pay me this amount of money, I would bring your website down. This is exactly what happened in the 2010 World Cup. A lot of bookmakers were down. However, now in 2011, what we saw was that these DDoS attacks are being used as a form of protest.
Right.
Against the activities of governments, major corporations. And I personally think that this particular attack by this group Anonymous on Visa, MasterCard, and PayPal in 2010, using a tool called Low Orbit Ion Cannon, was sort of an eye-opener for people around the world. And says, so this is possible, They brought down the entire Visa and MasterCard networks around the world. Right. And
being the scourges of capitalism that Visa and MasterCard are.
Yeah. And that all sort of tied down to Julian Assange's arrest at that point in time. Right. And it was sort of protest against that. And this sort of created a new activity, and we sort of dubbed this as cyber rioting. Mm-hmm. Where, you grab innocent passerbys, innocent in quotes, passerbys who are voluntarily joining into this attack.
Right. And
carrying this attack against these organizations. Now, apart from that, of course, once that happened, that led to a string of other attacks. In 2011, we saw some of the notable ones like the infamous Sony PlayStation attack.
Right.
The U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, was down as well. The UK's SOCA, Serious Organized Crime Agency, WordPress, that affected 18 million websites, right? Hong Kong Stock Exchange, and on the local front we have Malaysia Kini, and then right after that, of course, our very own 51 Malaysian websites that were hacked.
Right. Yeah. So it's basically the big guys are not impervious to this. You mentioned CIA, for goodness sake. You would think that they'd have, lots of armory to fight such DDoS attacks.
Well, Azura, basically, for example, now, if someone decides to do a prank call on you and you have a phone at home that doesn't have a caller ID. Now, if I decide to call you and I say, and you pick up the phone, I say, haha, and I put down the phone again. And I keep doing that again and again. What happens is, let's say a colleague of yours was trying to reach you on the phone. They said, Azura, what happened? Your phone was busy all night long. That's an example. The same way you would not know that, just by hearing a phone ring, you wouldn't know whether it's a good call or a bad call.
I see.
the server can't differentiate that as well. That's the advantage of the DDoS attacks.
Which sounds very simple, but very effective at the same time.
Very effective.
Now, besides these DDoS attacks, what are some of the similar kind of attacks that have hit hard in 2011?
Well, we've seen some interesting ones. Of course, the icebreaker in 2010 had to be the attack on RSA. Ritesh, Shamir and Edelman, which basically sent shivers through large corporations around the world, which were depending on their secure ID token. They were using it for online
Not
banking.
so secure after all. I know lots of friends in investment banking who use that to access their service. Okay.
So apparently, what happened was RSA claims it as an advanced persistent threat. Which is sort of an organized attack against them by certain governments. But the truth is, it wasn't. Yeah, it was an attack, and it was actually a two-pronged attack. And what we saw was only the first part. We are not sure of the second part, right?
Something to look out for in 2012.
2012, yes. And we also saw a very interesting spear phishing campaign. It's got nothing to do with Britney Spears, though. This is where they sort of like when you fish in the sea and you take a spear and you're targeting a specific person. They affected Epsilon, which was the largest email marketing company in the world.
Right.
They got attacked using a spear phishing campaign. And then, of course, we also saw another interesting attack by a security company called HB Gary. Again, that was sort of a protest as well. And they sent a small girl to attack them. And then we saw a defense company, Lockheed Martin, was also attacked. They were attacked using a man-in-the-middle attack. Right. And of course, Lockheed Martin blames RSA. Says you got attacked, and that's why I got attacked.
Right.
And then we saw a very, very, very interesting attack on Google in China using a technique called cross-site request forgery. It's a very interesting attack. And they were targeting specific U.S. politicians' Gmail accounts.
Right. I wonder why. Now, the thing is, Krishna, is it because of, you speak about, political hacktivism and the fact that, there's unrest or, unhappiness with certain quarters of society, but also is there a fight for freedom in the internet? You mentioned Julian Assange, for example. Has he been, a popular figure in the reason why, the DDoS attacks and such attacks you just mentioned have been on the increase?
I think so. I have to say that the traditional reasons are still there, doing it for fame, for profit, for fun, it's still there. But then what happens is, with all these attacks that are coming along the way, this has become a new form of protest for freedom on the internet. And I think that this is a start of a new trend that we will see in the coming years.
Now, we see it quite prevalent in our Western counterparts, in Western society. Most of the attacks seem to be coming from the US, followed by Europe, as a matter of fact. Why is there less of such activity in Asia?
We're
just nice people.
I'll have to agree to that. But then again, we have to understand that when these attacks are being revealed or published, and they submit statistics and articles saying that, the attacks, the US likes to blame China for everything.
Right.
So the attacks originate from China. What they really mean is that the computer that was used in the attack originated from China.
But
then we don't really know who the attacker is and where he's from, right? The Chinese computer or the American computer could be just a proxy, right, that's used by an attacker maybe sitting in Namibia. We don't know.
Right.
And the same goes with computers in Europe, US. Now, in 2011, I remember we did a show, and we did say that botnets as well as groups will find new ways of infection, and that's exactly what has happened. In the end of 2010, the US government did a clean wipe on all these botnet groups, and in 2011, they found new ways to infect them.
Right.
And there are more and more bots being infected around these countries, and we see in the local front, in somewhere closer to home, we see an increasing trend of computers and proxies in Indonesia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore, and then followed by India, Vietnam, Oman, Egypt, and Philippines.
No Malaysia there.
Malaysia's not there yet.
Oh, okay. That's interesting to know. Well, I'm speaking to Krishna Rajagopal, and he's the CEO of AKATI Consulting, as you go through the viruses that have dominated the tech headlines for 2011. And in a moment, we'll be talking about spyware on Tech Talk BFM 89.9. Azura Rahman here on Tech Talk, and as we ease into the final weeks of the year, we go through some of the notable virus-laden problems that's beleaguered the IT world for 2011. And here with me to go through some of the headlines is Krishna Rajagopal, and he's the CEO of AKATI Consulting. Now, Krishna, let's talk about spyware, which has been the one that's been on the lips of everyone in 2011. Now, I say the IT world, but actually, it affects everyone out there.
Everybody, yes,
right.
Correct. Now, if in 2010 the show stealer was Stuxnet, the specific advanced Trojan that was targeted at the Iran nuclear facility, in 2011 it has to be a virus or a Trojan called Duku.
Okay.
Now, it sounds funny. Malaysians would say it's a fruit.
Yeah, Duku Langsat. Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing.
Well, it came out from the fact that, the investigators found a lot of D and Q in the code. So they called it Duku. Right. And we'd like to say that, I like to believe that Stuxnets got pregnant along the way and gave birth to Duku.
Okay.
Sort of a second generation worm or spyware that originated from Stuxnet. But the fact is that even in 2011, no one really knows who the father is.
Okay.
Right? Fingers have been pointed to US, Israel, but no one really knows who
It
the
sounds
father
like a
is.
bad celebrity moment there. So we don't know who actually came up with this, basically.
Yes, and all we know is that whoever did it had a lot of backing and funding because it was a very, very intelligent worm, and it's able to sort of like a guided missile. It can find its target, and it could infect 100,000 machines, but it'll only activate in the right machine that it finds.
Okay, so
Yeah.
not necessarily anyone would be, or everyone would be affected by it.
No.
Right, okay.
And besides Duku, I would have to say Lisa Moon has to be credited as well.
All right.
Lisa Moon infected millions of sites. Although it was created in 2010, it gained full maturity in 2011.
Okay.
Right? And Lisa Moon has got a secret affair partner. Right? And that has to be Anti-Spyware 2011. This is a little fake spyware that was being traveling on the net. And what it does is it blocks your antiviruses from getting connection to the internet. So it can't get its updates. So renders it useless, basically. And last, we have got a worm that's got a funny name to it called Morto worm.
Okay.
And Morto sort of attacks using what we call as a remote desktop protocol. And it uses that protocol and tries to connect to machines around the world and connects into the machine directly and sort of owns the machine and gets into the machine and steals credentials. And that's very interesting. What we do see a trend in all these spywares is that they are extremely intelligent as compared to spywares in 2009.
And is there any way of you actually knowing that, your computer has been infected with spyware?
Oh, there is. Of course, there's a long list.
Right.
But then, in a nutshell, keep your tools sharp.
Right, okay.
That's what I can say.
Right.
Keep your tools sharp and make sure that you're vigilant.
So if you see someone suddenly hovering over your document, you know that you've
Yes.
there's not a ghost in your computer. It's been infected with spyware.
Or your CD-ROM opens and closes.
Yeah, something to worry about. Now, apart from spyware, viruses and Trojans, any notable ones that you should be speaking about for 2011?
Well, Azura, just like, you had Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 1, right? In 2011, I think only Part 1 was released.
Okay.
Yeah. And you're going to see more and more dangerous, newer Trojans that are coming along the way as well. And what we have seen is, in 2010, we saw a very intelligent Trojan called Zeus, which was only targeting online banking users. Now, Zeus has sort of got mutated with another Trojan called SpyEye. And now they've come up with a new code, which hasn't been named yet. But this new rejuvenated code targets mobile users accessing online banking sites through their mobile phones.
Right.
That's very interesting.
And that's going to be scaring a lot of people who are doing internet banking and mobile banking,
Yes.
I suppose. All right, so we need to look out for that one for 2012. Now, social media is obviously a huge thing, and being huge consumers of social media, there's always a virus or malware affecting it. Now, I've seen some people be affected, just seeing things that have been popping out on my timeline, for example. But what's been some of the virus or Trojan or malware spyware that's hit social media websites this year?
Now, tools that have or spywares that have actually hit these sites themselves. Yeah, if you say if you give a Grammy Awards for that, the Grammy has to go to a tool called Social Bot.
Okay.
A Social Bot is a human-like program that sort of is able to register on Facebook on its own. All right, passes through the CAPTCHA, and it has actually stolen almost 250 gig of data, personal information of Facebook users. It's already done that.
Wow.
And even Facebook's defense mechanism that they've spent millions on, called the Facebook Immune System, FIS, was rendered useless in this. It wasn't able to detect this, right? We've also seen the mutated version I was just mentioning about, Zeus and SpyEye. They've used Facebook as a viral mechanism, and they've used Facebook to spread this and steal information. A lot of people come and say, you know what, someone's just hijacked my account, and they've posted messages to my users saying that I've got stuck in, I don't know, some weird location somewhere.
Right.
I don't have place to go, and I've been robbed, and I need money. And they've posted it as if it was me to my users. So obviously my friends will now start sending money in. And that has also been a trend, using social media to carry out traditional fraudulent activity as well.
Okay, so if anything looks suspicious on your timeline, don't click on it.
Don't click on it, yes.
Especially the ones that
or
say,
something that looks too good to be true.
We use the words big and bouncy earlier on,
big and
didn't we?
bouncy,
So,
exactly.
anything that looks a bit, do not click on that, all right? Now, the Wayne network, that's WAYN, that spams your entire email database, has recently affected someone who works at BFM. I won't mention names. Okay, it's Frida. Now, is this a reason why social networking sites are being attacked? And tell us a bit more about Wayne itself. For those who are not familiar, look out for a message from Frida.
Well, Wayne, basically, where are you now, right? It's actually been labeled as a spam, hoax, fake social sites a lot of times, and ever since 2005. But Wayne officials actually claim that this sort of spamming, where I get an invite and it takes me through a registration process, and next thing I know, all my users in my contact book basically has been sent an invite from me, right? That sort of tactic, they claim it's their guerrilla marketing technique. Right? And
so it's a legitimate website on its own?
It is a legitimate company, legitimate website, and a social networking site. In fact, it's funded by a venture capitalist, Esprit Capital Partners in the UK. And it's actually owned by a very famous VC called Stuart Chapman. And originally, of course, Wayne was targeted at European users who were traveling abroad to track where their fellow European partners are. But then, of course, now it's spread across the globe. And a lot of people have fallen into this site. And if you look on the net, people actually claim Wayne as a fake or a bogus site. It's actually worked against Wayne,
them
in a lot of ways, yes.
So, when you're considering guerrilla marketing tactics,
think again.
Yeah, think again, because people think you're a virus instead.
True.
Now, do you have any final words of advice, Krishna, for those who are, everyone's who's not impervious to these attacks? It could happen to anyone.
Correct.
What should you do?
I like to say, having said that Wayne is a legitimate site, but then the fact that this can happen gives a sort of a motivation for all these virus coders and spyware coders to say, this is possible. Right? And could give them a motivation to create new work of art, as they say, and target social networking sites. So as users, what we should be doing is do not click on a link. I'd always like to type the link myself.
Okay.
Don't click on any link. And of course, it doesn't take too much to just Google the site and see what is this site all about. And if you start seeing something nasty, I think you can do without that. One less social networking site wouldn't hurt.
Okay, so always be extra vigilant and do not click on the link.
Yes, do not click on
All
the link.
right, and those were the wise words of Krishna Rajagopal, and he's the CEO of AKATI Consulting, about security threats of the year 2011. And next week, we'll be taking a look at 2012, so do tune into that. As for tomorrow, though, we have Lee Chen and Hayato Koida of A10 Networks as we chew over the accessibility to the cloud and its importance for optimal cloud usage on Tech Talk BFM 89.9.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To find more great interviews, go to bfm.my or find us on iTunes. BFM 89.9, the business station.